all the stories, play with President Clinton, where we were on 17 and the Secret Service had all the thing there, and he probably hit the best drive of the day. I said, "Oh, Mr. President, you do better in the dark." He goes, "You bet I do." George Bush was a very interesting man. He was a terrible golfer. I remember one time, he'd hit the shot, and every time he'd say, "Okay, this is for Barbara," for his wife. This is shot for Barbara. Then he would just shank it or something. He'd say, "Well, we'll wait till the next shot that I hit," whatever.
You said that you had a very close relationship with Pete Dye. What was he like?
His deal was basically, you bring the people, I'll take care of the golf course. But Pete never wanted for you to be looking at the back of the green and see a big home in the back. Teeth to the dog, he always protected that. He hated it when somebody put a house there and you go, "No, that house is not going to go there. We cannot have it, or we got to find a way to hide it."
How much involvement did Alice have in the designing of Teeth of the Dog?
A lot more than people think. She would go out there sometime and she'd say, "Pete, that's the dumbest tee I've ever seen. This is so bad. What are you thinking?" And then he would say, and then, they'd mumble around a little bit. The next thing he'd move the tee.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Top 100 Clubhouse Podcast. I'm your host, James Henderson. I'm here with Gilles Gagnon. How are you doing, Gilles? Are you well?
I'm doing great, thank you, and it's an honor to be with you.
Let's talk a little bit about your current role and how you got there. You're with the Casa de Campo team, so what's your role there?
Well, now I've become the Director of Golf Emeritus and Director of Golf Sales and Marketing. But originally, I arrived at Casa de Campo in 1980 as a Director of Golf Operation, but got a little older, and we built 3 more golf courses. I got there, we had 2 golf courses, Teeth of the Dog and Links, and now we have basically 90 holes of golf. So and a private club. So it got to be a little difficult, when I was 70 years old, and decided it's time to do something else. And I started pretty much every event down there at Casa de Campo, pro-ams and senior event and women's. And the ownership said, "Well, what about if you go in sales? You bring a lot of people. Why don't you, everybody knows you. You've been there so long." And so I decided to do that. Then it's been fantastic.
In Scotland, we call them the well-kenned faces.
Okay.
A bit about how you got there. Where did you start your golf career?
Well, I'm from Montreal originally, and, when you're a Canadian kid, when you're born, you come out of your mother with skates on, basically, and so I was a hockey player and ended up at Michigan State on a hockey scholarship, played hockey there and learned to play. One of my a good friend there was on the golf team, and I would kind of sneak him into practice before the practice of hockey, and he would sneak me in the golf, and learned to play golf. And then I played professional for a while, got beat up pretty bad, and I was pretty decent golfer by then. And I was hired at Colgate University to be the assistant hockey coach. And the golf pro retired, and they were kind of looking for somebody. And I said, "Look, why don't you wait a year? I'll take that over for a year." Well, we didn't have internet at that point in terms of researching things, but I had books and figured things out. And I was the golf professional there for 5 years. I brought the NCAA there at Colgate University, and all of a sudden hey, there's a job in the Dominican Republic. They got 36 holes. They want somebody that speaks a couple languages, which obviously I spoke French and learned English. And my wife was pregnant at the time, and we just packed our bags, sold everything we had, and went down to the Dominican Republic. And we were going to do there for a couple of years, and here we are, 45 years later. I changed wife. I don't have the same wife, but the same job.
I was actually playing with someone who went to Colgate last week.
Oh, really?
Went on tour with them, yeah. Small university.
Yeah, very small. 2,500 people, small town, beautiful little town. I still go back there every other summer and see some of my friends there. And they have a beautiful golf course, Seven Oaks Golf Club. Seven Oaks Golf Course is the first golf course that Trent Jones ever designed.
Oh, wow.
He didn't build it. He came out of Cornell. He designed that golf course. And then I don't know how many years later, but they built it. And it's a wonderful golf course.
Superb. When you arrived at the Dominican, what was your attraction apart from it being paradise?
I didn't have the job originally. I'm sure you've heard of Bill Crenshaw, the team of, the architects, and obviously Ben was won the master a couple times. Pete Dye was very close with them, and he wanted Bill Coore to go down there to run. He was more worried about, we were not that many many rounds at the time, and he wanted somebody to take care of his golf course. So they hired Bill Coore, and Bill Coore got down there and he goes, I don't want to be a golf professional or a director of golf. I want to be, an architect. So he said didn't want a job, and some reason or another, I didn't have any contacts, but somebody called and say, hey, would you like to come down there? And I said, well, I got to make sure I get the position. It was snowing in upstate New York. It was cold. It was in September. And they said, well, we're not sure. And then they hung up, and I thought, well, I got to be the dumbest Canadian in the world, right? Not to take that job. But, and then they call me back and they say, you got the job, come on down. And, it was a change. It was one of those things you do in life that feels right, but it's a very risky. I could have come down. I gave up a wonderful job at Colgate, and you had a nice retirement program. I had a good salary, and then all of us very secure. And then all of a sudden now, I pack my bag and you sell everything, house, cars, and end up in the Dominican Republic. And I don't know. I love golf. Hockey had become a little more difficult, to coach and recruit. The kids have changed. And so, I took, the leap of faith, I guess they call it. And it turned out, it was scary for quite a while, but then things turn around and became very close. Pete Dye became one of my best friends, and I worked for a, wonderful company. They were sold. They went from Golf and Western, who owned the New York Rangers and Madison Square Garden. It was a corporation, and they sold it to the Van Hool family and Flora Crystal, and they have been just, the ownership has been wonderful for the resort. They've been wonderful to me and the people. So it's been a good ride.
What was it like when you first turned up? Because it was the Casa de Campo really put Dominican Republic on the map for international tourism, really. So yes, when you first turned up, how much developed on that?
Oh my God. There was a few hundred homes, villas, very few. There were 2 golf courses, Teeth of the Dog, obviously, that's our famous golf course. And there was the other golf course, Links. There used to be Cahuilas 1 and Cahuilas 2. And then one day Pete Dye walked on some rocks, and the people told, oh, be careful, in Spanish, Diente de Perro, Teeth of the Dog. And he thought, oh, the great idea. Let's name the golf course Teeth of the Dog. But, you made a phone call, you're in the office, you had to call the operator, and then the operator would put you on hold. They would dial the number for you. You had to wait 10, 15 minutes, and then the line was busy. We didn't have, no television, didn't have any television. It was, you learned to play some chess and, different games. It was very quiet. There were no grocery store at the time. It was in town. They had a little open market, which, you definitely didn't want to go there unless you wanted a bunch of flies on some meat hanging. But the Dominican were wonderful. They're welcoming. And my daughter was born there, actually. My youngest daughter was born in Dominican Republic. And, it was an amazing experience. But the people there are so genuine and so nice. And, they took care. And obviously, you could have some help home, you could have a nanny, you could have somebody cleaning, because it was very reasonable in terms of the cost of living, how you pay these people. So, and then all of a sudden things start changing, we were, the company was sold, and then they start bringing their friends, and then, we grew, we built home. Then eventually we got a little television where you can watch one program, you could watch literally, there was a guy in town that had the television. Basically, he was controlling it, and he loved baseball. So you could be watching a movie, and all of a sudden, boom, the thing would switch, and it would go to the baseball, the Chicago Cubs. So anyway, but my daughter was there. She learned to ride learned to ride horses, and she became a tennis player and a golfer, and qualified. As she grew up, I got a great education there. There was a private school that you went, and the kids obviously learn English and Spanish right away, and then French. And so, but it was definitely a very, very, very difficult time in terms of being lonely there. You're there, your parents, your family is away, but I still remember December 25th, Christmas Day, 1980. I jumped right in the ocean, and it was about 88 degrees compared to about 20 below in Michigan or in New York at Colgate. So, it made up for it a little bit.
Yeah, I can imagine living in paradise it obviously has its pitfalls, but it also has its positivities. You get to be outside a lot more. You said that you had a very close relationship with Pete Dye. What was he like?
The vision that Pete Dye had, the first time I met him, I sat on the green on number 9. I'll never forget that. And we're talking, and he says to me, he says, by the way, you were at Colgate. He says, you were the golf director there. And he said, did you get involved in maintenance stuff or, agronomy a little bit? I said, well, yeah, I was on the greens committee. And he said to me, but I guess then you don't know anything. He actually says you don't know shit. That's what he said. And he got up and walked away. And I thought, oh my God, I'm in deep trouble. But we came back the next day and we talked, and and his deal was basically, you bring the people, take care of the people, and I will take care of the golf course. But he absolutely loved the Dominican Republic. He loved the people there. He loved to tinker, and he would change things all the time, and then we but he just was a good person. I walk a lot of when we built Die 4 or La Romana Country Club, which was La Romana was the next one we built, and you walk with him in these fields, and they got trees and bushes and stuff all over the place, and I put a stick there, put a stake there, and I said to him one day, I said, Pete, I can't see anything. He said, well, I know. That's why I like you. He says, because you're not lying to me. He says, people tell me, oh yeah, I can see it. I know they can't see. So I said, what do you have me here for? He said, well, if I fall down, you pick me up. And he says, you got a book there? You keep writing notes, and putting that stake on the ground. But he was a very generous person. He shared, he wasn't afraid to get opinion from other people type of thing. Like I would tell him one time, hey, why is that there? And he wouldn't say anything, and then the next day it was gone, or he would do something. But we became really close. He ended up having cancer. He had colon cancer, and I remember Alice, his wife, called and said, he's been looking for you. I can't remember where I was. Well, it was not easy to get a hold of us then, and he's been wanting to talk to you, and and he called me, all the time, every week, every other week, and he never, ever pronounce my name correctly, so you shouldn't feel bad about it. He called me Gilly, and he called me every name in the book, and but Alice, they were always there for me. Sometimes I'd get a little trouble, I have a big mouth, and I would say something that maybe the management didn't like, and he would come in and, say, well, he'd say, look, you need to be careful, but you were right, but they're also right, so he had a great balance, and he built all these golf courses, and and eventually got dementia, which that was really sad. He didn't, at the end, he really didn't recognize me very much, and but I would take him on a little ride on the cart, to go on the tee to the dog. We actually played. I actually have the last round, a picture with the last round he played, but came back, he played 9 holes from the forward tees, and we came back, took a little nap, and I talked to him, and he didn't remember he had played. But we went out there one day, and we were on the side of number 6, and I'll never forget it. And I said, he's looking down the coastline, where we have 5, 6, 7, and 8 right on the water. And I said, Pete, you did good. You did really good. And I could tell that his eyes got a little watery, and I think he got it, and we got in the cart, went back, and then he got, sick. We took him to the hospital, and he passed away very, very quietly there at Casa, at La Romana, which is our own hospital. And he wanted to be buried in the pot bunker. There's a book that says bury me in the pot bunker. Well, we did put him in the pot bunker. So he is where he wanted to be. His ashes are on number 8, the pot bunker, not exactly where it is for everybody, but we put his ashes there, his son, PB, and his wife, Jeannie, my wife, Marilee, and even Herb Kohler and Natalie Kohler, from Whistling Straight.
Yeah.
They were there, and we put his ashes, we have dug a little hole there and put his ashes with his dog, a little bit of his wife, and his book, and we said a little prayer, and so he's been there ever since. So, every time I go by there, if I get in that place where he is there and it's a tough up and down, I'll give it a little tap and say, come on, help me out. I got $10 on this game here.
What a nice thing to be able to remember someone by.
Yes.
What an amazing story. What an amazing existence being able to watch him live out his life, and someone who's obviously affected golf in such a great degree as Pete Dye and inspired so many people.
Again, I came from my mom and my brother and I used to live in a very, little apartment and very small, and we didn't have anything. I didn't miss, I ate, but it was a very, normal or basic living. And I never thought that I would meet, like a guy like Pete Dye, who's, Hall of Fame, and, everywhere you go, obviously, he designs hundreds of golf courses, and many of his courses hosted some major championship. But, he was very, he was himself. He never changed. We played with, presidents and prime ministers and actors, and he always acted the same. He'd say, okay, we got to walk. We're not riding a cart. We're walking. And he would, it didn't matter who it was. He just never treated anybody different. He would walk on the golf course and he'd walk up to somebody and he'd say, he had this kind of funny, from Ohio, I guess, but kind of a son, say, hi, how you doing? Do you like this course? The people would say, oh yeah, well, I'm Pete Dye. And then people would look and say, oh, sure. Whatever. And then he'd walk away, and I'd say, that was Pete Dye. Really, why didn't I get a picture and autograph? I said, well, get in the cart, catch up with him and he'll do it, and, so he was, he was pretty special man.
Well, it sounds like he was a bit of a role model for you in a way.
He was.
In terms of the resort, I know Pete Dye designed a number of courses there. What is your offering now? Now that you've just renovated Teeth of the Dog, what is the offering?
Well, we have Teeth of the Dog that we just, we closed in January 20th and reopened December 6th. And we changed all the grass. They redid all the bunkers, all the fairways, the greens. We're putting the paspalum, which is the water resistant grass now that they're using in a lot of different places. And then we have the links, obviously. It's more like a Florida golf course, but a little wider kind of fairways. And then we built Ladomana Country Club. Now we have 27 holes there. That's a private club. We're up there like 500 members, and we have probably 50 on a wait list. And then we have Die 4, it was 27, which is built up on the hill. And we have, right along the river. So the view up there is just fantastic. So when you're there, you're playing 3 different golf courses. You play Teeth of the Dog, Oceanside, and all the you're right there. There's 7, basically 8. We say 7, but 8, if you hit over number 4, you basically would go in the ocean. So, and you play along, and obviously one way, the wind comes from your left side. When you go up, you turn around, goes from your right. And so it's opposite. So you get different direction and, beauty. Then the links is a little more calming, but it's tighter, smaller green, very difficult landing area. If you got 135 yards and you hit it 130, more than likely you're going to run off, and then it's up and down. And a lot of people don't appreciate as much that golf course because of the others, but it's just a great golf course. And then you got Die 4, big wide fairway. The wind blows up there at Die, but you're 300 feet above the Chavon River, and you can see the ocean and the mountain in the distance, and big greens, big bunkers, big fairway. And originally it was funny, people enjoyed it, but not as much. Some reason, but now if we do a survey, we're like 55-45, 55 prefer Teeth, 45 prefer Die 4. Oh, wow. So we have a great combination. It's a different, a different feel. Every golf course is different.
Which one do you play the most?
Well, I play Ladomana Country Club a lot, and the reason for that is that we are been so busy. The Teeth's busy, like we're booked pretty much. Die 4's busy, Link's busy. So Ladomana Country Club, it's more of a weekend type of place where people, the owners, a lot of owners, by the way, 65% of the owners at Casa de Campo are Dominicans. So,
seriously?
yes, it's very, everybody is amazed by that. And But it is over 60% of the people are owned by, and we have Italians, we have German, we have Canadian, we have American. You literally can go to a dinner and speak 4 different languages at the table. You'd have all the different languages. It's one of those places that you have such a, the restaurants, we have, 9 restaurants you can go to, and you have the marina, and you have so much to do. You have polo, you have tennis, you got pickleball, you got padel, you can go fishing. We have one of the top, blue marlin fishing in the world. I think it's in February. I'm not much of a fisherman, but so, it's a very amazing place where you count, you go play, you go to Scotland, most of the time you're going to play, I've been there 4 times, with friends. And, as a matter of fact, a friend of mine at the, townhouse, the penthouse right behind the 18 at St. Andrews.
Yeah.
I was there with Cam Smith, won the British Open.
Oh, wow.
You go play golf and, you do stuff, and you could go maybe tour, the different thing, obviously story. But obviously, if you're from the north, you're from Canada or United States or whatever, you're not going to go jump in the water. It could be a fine day for swimming, but not for us. Gets a little cold. But, there's history, a lot of things. But Casa, you go there and you bring your family, and the kids can go pretty much, we're 7,000 acres. We have golf carts. People drive all over the place. And so it's a totally different, I've been in a lot of places. And to be honest with you, Casa de Campo as a family destination, we don't have a casino. That's not what we want. There's, like I said, now we're up to 2,500 homes. And, we have about 400 hotel rooms. So it's more, the family, you bring your wife, but if you're a golfer, it's great. You get up in the morning, you can go play early in the morning and then replay in the afternoon, and, play a lot of golf, and, drink some of the, I don't know if we have those beautiful bottles you got behind your head there, but they definitely drink down there.
This podcast is brought to you by Echo Shoes, particularly their new Biome C5. David, I know you have a wee bit of a fondness for an Echo.
Yeah, no doubt. I am literally a walking advertisement for Echo. And I can honestly say I played the World Top 100 in my Echoes. I spent years running around, diving around tennis court and stuff like that for a really long time. And that takes a toll because it was hard courts. And so hard courts, there's a lot of, things going on with your feet. And when I started to get a little bit older, not even old, like in my 30s, I had, my feet were bothering me when I had to do long walks and stuff like that.
4.5 miles is the standard golf round.
So 4.5 miles, right? So 4.5 miles of walking. When your feet hurt, it's the worst thing ever. And I had so many rounds where I would get done, and when I first started playing golf, and I couldn't take it. I had to get the shoes off, and my feet were just throbbing. And I ran into Echo probably in 2007, 2008, 2009, whatever the year was. It was before I started my journey really for playing the World Top 100.
Yeah, if you're doing the world's top 100, you need to be able to trust where your clubs are going and never get sore feet.
Exactly.
So, yeah. The rest you can sort out along the way. So just a couple of things about the Echo Biome C5. Every detail is crafted for the perfect feel. And I know David and his many adventures in golf have enjoyed Echoes over the years, but these have been designed to play and built for comfort. So thank you very much, Echo. Appreciate it a lot.
I know a few people, particularly Matt, who's part of the top 100 team, loves it down with you guys and finds a lot of peace there and a lot of comfort, which it just sounds like it ticks a lot of the boxes you want. Great golf, great accommodation, great food, great weather. What else would you need on a holiday, right? Right, let's get into the teeth of the dog renovation. Let's talk about the golf course that is really the highlight of the golf courses you have in terms of its ranking, its popularity. There's been a lot of intrepid onlookers because they've watched a golf course they love now being renovated. What was the goal and mission when you sat down to do the renovation?
Well, Jerry Pate was chosen. He was very close with the owner, and he's done some great work. He knew Pete Dye. He was friend with Pete Dye. And, everybody was concerned. Everybody's concerned that somebody's going to come in and put their own footprint, and the idea for us was, it was to keep, it's a Pete Dye golf course that was renovated in terms of facelift type of thing. We didn't want to change too many things. But what had happened over the years is that a lot of the bunkers had settled, like you figure out, like say that those machinery that goes in those bunkers, they always come out from the low side. Well, they drag sand, and then the front end settles down and the front end goes up. So, we had, it was visually, it wasn't as kind of, it was harder to look at what were your, the fairway, where, your line to hit the ball or whatever. So the idea was to perk up all these bunkers. The green had gotten a lot, smaller. Some of the area, because we've had some hurricane that was blown out and they were put back, and, things like this. And then we didn't have really a cart pad around there, for example, that, when it rained, once in a while, when we get rain, it rains for an hour or two, but it pours. So, to keep people off. So, keeping the cart pad, like most of the resort, which I love to walk, but, carts are the way to go now. So we've upgraded all these, and the grass, the fairway got to be, it was built on coral and there was very little topsoil. So we took it all out. We took a couple inches of what we had there and added like 3-4 inches of sand. We spent $4 or $5 million on sand, to make sure that the base was proper, the grass. And then the rough, we kept the same rough, it's called Signa. It's a grass, and I'm not an expert. Don't get me wrong. Pete was right. I don't know much, but it's a little darker. So it frames everything, The fairways are darker. The thing is lighter. And the greens are much better. They're a little firm right now because, it's only been a year basically and a lot of traffic, but, and a lot of things that were different, they put back. We look at your old picture. I mean, I've been there 45 years. I knew what it was but it's difficult to explain. So we went through pictures and they took a look where tees were originally and moved them back and, upgraded the whole place. I mean, the first time I played, you just get there and I went, wow. I mean, it looks so fantastic. And we have some videos, obviously, that we could send you that you can take a look and see the upgrade. And, everybody that's played think it's fantastic. But, sometimes they'll walk off and they go, well, I don't see much different. Well, that was the idea. We didn't want to change the whole thing. Some of the tees got a little longer because how far everybody hits it now. So
you have to make that. Originally,
it was like 6,900. Now it's about close to 75 from all the way back. And that's the only way, a 535, at the PGA, they had a 540 yard par 4, and these guys hitting driver 8 iron or something, or 7, because the fairways are firm. So, the game has changed, but it's hard to play golf there and not make a double bogey, let's say somewhere, or hit it in the ocean and make a triple or, this type of stuff. But I don't care how many times you play, when you finish, how well it is now. I always said you get on the 18th tee, and my thoughts is, man, I was so happy that I played this golf course, but then I'm so sad I'm on 18th. Well, I've played it thousands of times, and there's never a time that, I wasn't, happy that I played or you get on number 5 there or 15 at night when the sun's setting, the sun is right behind you, and you look and you go, okay, where else can I be that's going to be any better than this? We all have our special places, like I said, I've been to Scotland and I've been to some of the golf course, you go there and you go, my God, this is the history and the feel that you have and, the atmosphere, it just takes you and you go, man, like you said, I want to go, I got to play this again.
I can imagine for you every time you walk that course, you get into a little area of rough, or maybe you don't. You might probably hit the fairway every time, but
yeah, I don't think so.
But you get a bunker, as you said. You have memories on every single point of that golf course, whether it's Pete Dye making a funny quib or whether it's a guest asking a question or whatever. There's always some little nuggets of joy that'll scatter that golf course for you.
That's a wonderful point, by the way. That's never been asked that or told that, but you're absolutely 100% right. There's really not much any space there that I don't remember something from somebody, It's really amazing. Pete did say something or did something, or he would always come up with different. Or when you play, I played with Sean Connery one time, and it's like I remember being on 15 with him, and hitting a shot, and it hit and bounced back in the fairway, and I go, "What happened there?" I said, "What's going on?" Well, luck of the Irish or Scots. He was, whatever. All the stories, play with President Clinton where it was dark, and he the funny line was said, "Well, I do better in the dark," which was, I don't know if that was. So here's a story. We were on 17, and the Secret Service had all the thing there, and he probably hit the best drive of the day. I said, "Oh, Mr. President, you do better in the dark." He goes, "You bet I do." I don't know if you want to keep that on your podcast. You might come in and try to find me, but anyway.
That's so funny. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
What a great line. Hats off to him. So you obviously it's been a destination spot for the last 50 years. There's a number of big names have flown in and out of and playing at Casa. Is there any other celebrities you played with?
Well, Robert Redford was there, and again, I played with Bush, both of them. I played with Clinton. I've played, like I said, Sean Connery.
Who's your favorite to play with?
George Bush was a very interesting man. He was a terrible golfer. He was not a very good golfer. And I remember one time, he'd hit the shot, and every time he'd say, "Okay, this is for Barbara," for his wife. This is shot for Barbara. Then he would just shank it or something. He'd say, "Well, we'll wait till the next shot that I hit," whatever. So I said to him one day, I said, "Mr. President, why don't you call it just after you hit? Then you can just say that shot was for Barbara, versus before." So he was a really an amazing guy. But, playing with Pete Dye wasn't the worst thing. Pete was a pretty good golfer. He played in the Open. He played in he was a very good amateur player. And his wife, Alice, was fantastic. I mean, won 90-some tournament, Florida State Amateur, Indiana Amateur, U.S. Senior Amateur, the Canadian Senior 2 or 3 times. I mean, and she would hit that little draw, she would sit there, turn her head, hit that little thing down, and it ran. And she always put me all the way back and her up front, and she would love to beat me and tell people that she'd beaten me. And I kept saying, that's not one of the best accomplishments of yours, just beating a Canadian, a little Canadian hockey player. But, those are pretty good memory. Playing with, my daughter when she played in the Open in 2001. And so that was interesting. I love to play with her. My grandkids now, I have 2 grandsons out of 4 that are golfers, and they're good. One is really, really good, and the other one is kind of getting into it now, but you can tell he's got some talent. So that's a lot of fun. It's a long life, but there's no hockey player in the family now. So that's
it's all golfers.
It's all golfers, and football player and hockey. I mean, and basketball and stuff like that. They're more American than Canadians now, for sure.
Out of interest, when back in the day when Pete and Alice would be wandering the property, how much involvement did Alice have in the designing of Teeth of the Dog? Or
A lot more than people think. Like I said, Pete would, well, I don't know if he listened or he had to listen. It's one of those things. Yes, dear. But she would go out there sometime and she'd say, "Pete, that's the dumbest tea I've ever seen. This is so bad. Why do you do what are you thinking?" And then he would say, "Well," and then, they'll mumble around a little bit. The next thing, he'd move the tea but she had, visually, she was also very, very good. She was a good golfer. And I still remember there was his name was Drew Montague, a British owner there. He was a great friend with Pete and myself and Alice. And he used to complain about number 5 all the time. He kept saying, "That green's too small. And, you're back there 165 yards. And I said, "Well, just learn to hit it. You're hitting a golf ball on a little beach towel, on the beach." And he'd be complaining he could never hold this green. So we're playing with Alice and Pete, and Alice just doesn't say a word. Go in the back tee there. It's 165. I mean, she's I don't know, she wasn't young then. She must have been in her 60 anyway, or not old, but she took that little 5-iron and she whipped that thing nice little up in the air, right on the green, stayed right there about 10 feet for the pin. She walked away very gracefully and got on the cart and drove off. And Hughes never said a word after number 5 after that. That was the end of the story. So, yeah, she was, and the thing that was amazing with her is that she, realized that for a woman, it's not fun to be hitting driver, 3-wood, wedge, to get the hole. So the forward tees at Casa de Campo and the tee to the dog and links are really reasonable where, say my wife hits the ball, let's say a little longer than most people, but, I have about 170, but let's say women hit it 150, 160, they'll be able to get on the green. If I play the tees that I'm supposed to play and my wife played a tee where she's supposed to play from, we'll have the same, more or less the same club. Now, obviously my 7-iron is longer than hers, but we're basically the same thing. We'll hit. It's the same thing if you get a tour guy that plays all the way back and I play all the way up, from the forward tee or something, we'll have pretty much the same to the green. So that's the thing that she was very, very much involved, is making sure that women would go there and enjoy golf versus, most of the time they come up, oh, it's my best golf I've ever played. Well, yeah, you didn't hit a driver 3-wood wedge to get to this hole. You could hit a driver in an 8-iron or a wedge, or a 7 or 6.
That's really interesting. Sorry, you've just said something that I've never really thought. If you go to Scotland, majority of the golf courses, the forward tees are just a wee bit in front of you, a wee bitty in front, right? And maybe it was Alice Dye that really pushed golf in America to start having proper women's tees. Just thinking about it, because she was doing that a long time ago. Yeah,
she's always, and the funny part about it, and I got 2 daughters and, and to me, what amazes me is that if you get older as a man, they move you up. If you get older as a woman, this is where you are. You're not going going any forward, right?
Yeah.
This is your golf course. So a lot of time I at the club there, and I'll say, we should have one day where let's put the older ladies, that a little forward. Let's put just a block on the fairway somewhere and just say, okay, look, because guys keep moving. I mean, I got guys now that are moving literally right there as far up as you can. Well, they could be the same age. I mean, I had a couple of friends that are 90 years old. Well, the woman that's 90 is playing the same tee as she did when she was, 40.
Yeah.
Now she's, he's playing 100 yards up or 150 yards up. So that's a little bit of my, nobody listens, but I like to mention that.
I've never heard that before. It's an interesting thought. It's because I play off the box or the whatever, and I never really thought about it that way. That's really interesting. In terms of renovation, because we've talked about a couple of times that Pete and Alice changed things quite a lot. They tinkered with the teeth of the dog. How do you know where is restoration, where isn't, and where is? That must have been a really interesting conversation.
To be honest with you, and obviously there's going to be a ton of people, listening to this, but it was a different voice. It doesn't come from me. Even now, it's not even close to what it was 50 years ago. To be honest with you, we try to preserve it the way it was maybe 20 years ago, not the way it was 45 years ago. You know what I mean? Because like I said, hurricanes and Pete changed things, and, you always tinker. There's one thing with Pete, sometime I would say, if I own the golf course, you'd build it for me. But after you finish, you're done. You're out. Because he'll go back and go, it's like messing around with the Mona Lisa. You know what I mean? Okay. So not that he didn't do anything proper or maybe something that should be done, but there's a lot of things that changed. Number 8, for example, used to have a double fairway. There'd be a railroad tie in the middle, and then we got hit by storm, and we got a little, the fairway wasn't wide enough to put 2 fairways, basically. So he changed that a little bit. And then a couple of the holes that people build home there, they bought land, they couldn't see this, whatever, so he changed it. But the main hole, like if you're talking about 5, 6, 7, 8, those are pretty much the same. except and again, when he got older, you couldn't fly the ball on the green. So you kind of put a mound on the right side where you could hit there, hit it there, and it would bounce on the green. Basically that was his own. And it turned out to be great because now I use that. I used to say, what the hell are you doing that for? You flip that thing on, and now I realize that it was a good idea. But overall, there's some holes that are, 10, 18 is very different. It used to go the other way, it used to go left to right. Now it's right to left. But that was not that was changed by Pete a long time ago. We had the airport that ran right through there. 10 is a little different. They moved the green, compared to what it was 45 years ago. 11, 12 go the other way. 13, we had a beautiful tree there. It got blown away during the storm and everything, but it's still a Pete Dye golf course. But if you look what it was 45, 50 years ago, 45 years ago when I got there, it's totally different. But everything's different. The links used to have grass, and then finally, we did everything to make golf easier. In the old days, people want to play a tough golf course and suffer. Now the young people don't want to do that. They have music and they play and they laugh and they hit the balls all over the place, and they don't want to go out there and spend 5 hours looking for golf balls and, and 3 feet of heather or something, This is what's fun about when I feel about Scotland is you haven't touched much of any of those golf courses. They're there. They were there. You go play, and some of them, you get these bunkers now, you can't get out of them basically, but they're there. You don't have to hit into them. So, it's a totally different thing. Although the Teeth of the Dog is fantastic and links and die for, we're still a resort. The idea is to bring people to enjoy it and not suffer for 4.5 hours or something.
Well, that's the thing. You're playing in a very hot climate, right?
Yeah.
What would be your standard temperature you'd play during the day? And
it's 85 degrees, 85, 88 degrees every single day. Usually the Teeth of the Dog in the summer, it would come, summer comes from the south and the winter comes from the north, but it's never cold. Not that, once in a while, maybe you have to wear a sweater or something, but, that's, at night. But so it's pretty much, die for, you get a pretty good breeze. But yeah, you don't, I used to wear long pants all the time when I worked just because it was part of the, to look as the golf professional or director. And now I wear shorts all the time because, it's more comfortable and, you got to wear a little sunscreen and, now they have these sleeves that you can put on for your arms, but it's beautiful. If you're older, it's great because that warm weather, kind of loosen up the old bones, but, and the ball flies obviously a little bit better.
What would be the one change you'd do? What would be your little tweak that you would make if you had a chance to do something to the golf course?
That would be really difficult. I think that's sacrilege for me to go mess around with this thing, The links, which is a wonderful golf course, I would perk this thing up and make it a little bit more of a challenge. It's not like it's not a challenge, but I make it so much harder or something that would be like people would go out there because, they want to play, but it's not like something like, you want to go, it's not like, oh, I want to play, be like at St. Andrews, right? You got the old and the new and basically they want to play the old, which is not the oldest, I guess, right? People will want to play that one. The other one I've played, but you want to play obviously the course where the Open is. So there is the same way with the links, but it's such a great golf course. But I would get the rough back in and I would make it so people go out there and go, man, you got to try this golf course. This thing's so hard or, whatever. That's probably the only thing that I would do and, make the bunkers a little bigger or something. I would mess with that. But what I would do though is I would also name every hole. I sat there one day and I, like you do there, I have different names for all the different holes. Like,
oh, go on, hit us. You must tell us the names.
Well, there's favorites. One, number 2, for example, just because it's Spanish, I call it suerte because luck, because it's a dog leg left and there's rocks on the left. It's a kind of a rock little quarry there. It's not, but something like that. Then you can hit the ball in there and it can bounce dead right back in the fairway or dead left out of bounds. So that's my suerte. And then number 5, I would call it Alice rule, because that's when Alice, got on that back tee there and hit it on the green and, basically, and then, number 8, I would call it resting place, because that's where Pete is. then 18, I always thought about emotions. That's what I would call it, is emotion, because you're happy that you played, but sad that you're it's the last hole. So anyway, there's something. I think it would be kind of funny to do that. And I did that on my own, just like I still have those names, but maybe one day they'll decide to do that.
That sounds like a lovely thing to be able to do, particularly for the people that have had such a great effect on the golf course. What time of year is best to go? When's your best time of year to visit?
Well, the temperature doesn't change that much down there. The only time we have, and to be dead honest with you, is maybe mid-August to mid-October that we have the hurricane season. So you could get a little more, stormy and stuff like that. So, but, a lot of times nothing happened. But so if you say, well, I want to go in September, I'd say, well, don't come because of storm that might hit. But the rest of the time, you go from mid-October till, the end of May, middle of May, the temperature is pretty much, it starts a little warmer, gets cooler and gets warmer again, a little warmer, but it's amazing. Like I'm going to go, my grandson now, from New York wants to come down, and the difference is to come to Florida where we have a home that we're here once in a while, and he wants to go back to the DR, because everything is there, you have a home there, the golf courses are there, you got everything there. So, it's easier. But again, when the kids are out of school, you want to bring your kids there, the beach and all that stuff is there, it's beautiful. So, obviously Christmas time is our busiest time. Easter time, Christmas time, that's the busiest time. And, obviously, it's a little more expensive during those days. But Christmas, we're from about the 26th to the 2nd or 3rd. We're always pretty much full, but it's just amazing. Every home there is, every home, all the owners are there, and gets to be very, very busy. It's not the little old place I knew, like between 1980 and 1990. It's a huge change.
You've overseen a lot of change there. How has the renovation changed the way people view or book, or is the numbers changed, or has there been a lot more eyes on the resort because of it, or what's happened?
Well, I think like everywhere else in the world, during COVID, that was probably the best marketing for golf ever. Everything's changed, but the owners have been amazing about reinvesting money into the thing. Like I say, we spent $15 million redoing the Teeth of the Dog. They've added new rooms. We have a new spa. They spend $4 million on this spa. They continue to put everything, to put back in. It's not like, take the money. But listen, we went from 30, 40,000. Well, that was even the decent day, 40,000 rounds. So now we're doing about 85, 90,000 rounds of golf. So
wow.
It's a huge, huge change, but people start to know, we do a lot of marketing, obviously, and we have the great opportunity like today to be with you, and, a lot of people going to be watching this, and I've done a few with different podcasts, and, Golf Magazine come down there, Raiders have been down there, and, famous people that would come at Casa de Campo, and all of a sudden, they put text on or Instagram, and they send that stuff all over. So all of a sudden, people, see it. But the wonderful thing about Casa de Campo is, like, for example, for me with the events that I do, 5 pro-ams, a whole bunch of stuff. I do about 75 to 80% repeat business. So, which is pretty interesting. People come there and they keep coming back and back. I mean, I've had people that have been coming for 35 years that keep coming back every year for the events that we do. For golf, obviously you got the regular the population, or people that travel, the travelers that come and play here, play there. But we have a lot of events there, and a lot of events that, we created, and we put that, and all of a sudden people come and they meet other people, and they go, okay, next year we'll come back. We'll meet you next year. So this has been a probably different than most resort that you can think of. Like you can think of Doral, you can think of PGA National, you can think of Pebble Beach, or these places. They don't run a lot of events, like pro-ams. We do a lot of, like I said, 5 pro-ams and senior event and ladies and, different things, couples. And so we do a lot of things to bring people together.
But it sounds like you've built community, not a resort.
Very much so. It's a very big community. And, like I said, the funny part of it is when you're down there, if my wife and I, if we can stay home 1 or 2 nights a week, we're very happy. Not that we don't enjoy going out, but, you're invited here. You have an event to attend. So we're constantly, out to dinner or at some cocktail party and, meeting people and like I said, from all over the world. It's not just from, the American, but, everybody. And we've been getting quite a few Canadian these days. Canadian seems to be coming down a little more to the Dominican Republic, discover people that belong to, St. George's in Toronto, for example, or Toronto Golf Club, these very old and historic golf course. They, instead of going to Florida, they seem to be coming to the Dominican Republic and the homes there. And, you can get staff. It's much easier. And you're within, 7,000 acres. So I have a car that I think I got 7,000 kilometer on it. I've had it for 2 years. I can push it down the hill to the club, so don't need to go anywhere. So, we have a grocery store on the property. We have a movie theater. We have a hardware store. You have, store people can shop. You have restaurants. You got everything there. You really don't need to get out. You can stay right at the resort. You don't have to go anywhere.
In terms of the Teeth of the Dog, it's obviously been in the top 100 world for a long time. I mean, one of the few that's probably not dropped out of it. What was the inspiration for the renovation a wee bit about keeping up that level of standard? Well,
I think it's really important, and you make a good point there. A lot of golf courses have dropped out because now when they're building golf courses, what they do is they just try to, emulate or try to, to copy some of the stuff and they try to just make it more dramatic and, things like that. But I think it would be, it would say, well, you're going to drop St. Andrews out of the top 100. You still have to look at the history. You still have to look at what the golf course represent and what does it do in terms of golf as a golfer? When you play that golf course, are you tired of playing that golf course or, because you're going to see some new one somewhere, that's maybe more, a little more dramatic in terms the bunkers are huge and things like that. So I think there's history there. It was the beginning, one of the first few golf course. Well, I think Pete used to tell me that originally that was the only golf course that had really 7 holes right on the ocean. Then he built Kiowa and, things like that. So, there's some sense of when you're looking at the golf course, not only it's a good golf course, but you play golf there, you're going to hit, every club, if you don't clean your club, everyone's going to be dirty at the end, because you got short one, you got long one, you got like the par threes. I would say probably the best par threes in anywhere in the world, 5, 7, and 5 is from all the way back is 175. 7 is 235, but then these things could go to 70 yards on 5 and about 100 yards or 80 yards on 7. So you got, all these tees and, so, yeah, I mean, it's very important. It was very important for us because it was starting to slide in terms of the condition, and it's important, obviously, there's condition. So it was important for us, yes, that was part of the reason. We want to give people a better experience, but also we wanted to make sure that we're not, we didn't drop out of the top golf in the world. I mean, it's important because people look at that. I mean, it's, obviously they look at what you guys do and it's very important for us to make sure that we stay, as high as we can and maybe move up. And we walk, the other thing, you can walk there. That's another thing. It's a very walkable golf course. And part of the ranking, I think it's important that you could have a caddy, you can walk. I think that's part of it. I
completely agree. The moment you have big walks between greens and tees and greens, it does detract from the whole experience.
Yeah, it does. And people, they're building golf course today also for real estate. So you go from, one hole, then you get on a cart and you got to drive, like half a mile to get to the next tee.
That's one of the cool things about the Teeth of the Dog. That time period that was first built, everyone was building for real estate money. But Teeth was built, and then the real estate came second to the golf course. Now
100%.
Now there's become commonplace with a number of different projects that have been built, but it was really that project that kind of kicked that whole thing off.
Yeah, and even Ladomana Country Club, for example, when Pete, if you play a lot of golf course in Florida, for example, and I don't want to pick on Florida, I mean, I love everything, but, a lot of time it's very narrow. The houses feel like they're right on top of you. Ladomana Country Club's got homes on both sides, but the way Pete had it, that cannot remember if it was 80 yards and he added another 10 on each side where, he wanted to make sure that you didn't feel, I mean, the houses are there, but Pete never wanted for you to be looking at the back of the green and see a big home in the back. Teeth of the Dog, he always protected that. He hated it when somebody put a house there and you go, no, that house is not going to go there. We cannot have it, or we got to find a way to hide it. I don't want to be looking at, number 7, for example, and all of them. I'm looking and I see these home on the right.
Yeah.
You don't see them. 8's the same way. When you're on the tee, you're not really looking at the home on the right. They're off, off the side. And that was a big, big, big deal with him. Did not want to do that. And he protected it as long as he could.
Well, what's next for Casa de Campo?
Probably me buried next to Pete Dye or something. We probably we have a project to redo the clubhouse. The clubhouse. I mean, the little pro shop and the clubhouse we have there on the Teeth is that was part of my project I did, I don't know, 30 some years ago. So it's getting a little older. The Lago Grill is right there. It's beautiful, but I think that's the next project. And, but they continue to improve constantly. We upgrade the rooms. We have new rooms that are better, and, training, we try to train the people so they get, better. I mean, educate them to make the people feel a sense that it's kind of like you said, it's a community, it's a family. You come back, we remember you. And we do. A lot of people do. So, it's a difficult place to improve because it's about perfect. But you could always find things, and we want to continue to give the best experience to the people and the best memories when they go back. And I've had kids when I did a college tournament there that came back and got married there and came back on their honeymoon there, and now they have family and they bring their kids. And so that's people always ask me, when, because I still work, not as hard as I used to, but I work. And people said, when are you going to retire? When do you want to retire? And I go, well, where am I going to go? What's the point? You don't come out of heaven and go to hell. You know what I mean? I work for wonderful people, and they respect me. I respect what I do, and I'm very loyal to them. And, my wife's happy there. My kids, when they come down, love it. And I'm doing well. So, what's the point? I'm not going to retire.
For them as well, there's a link to the past of the story of the whole place, the whole site, because you've been there for so many years, and I can imagine you wandering around just chatting to people and being like, oh, what do you think?
Yeah, and I was looking the other day, and I was thinking the other day, my wife and I were sitting down and we were thinking, and I said, I don't think I can't remember. I think there might be 1 or 2 people that are still there. Everybody else has moved on and, or, got a new job or took a little break and went up to a little eternity place. But, there's very few people left there. And, Jason Kachek, who's the marketing VP of sales and marketing there, is a great guy. And he's really trying very hard to try to keep the history and try to get me to talk a little more about some of the stories that I have. And I think it's important. When Pete passed away, I think we lost a lot of history there. And so, me talking with you with a few little story like this makes it very special for me.
On that note, I would love to hear, before we finish, I would love to hear a few stories. What's happened? What's Pete got up to that's hilarious? What's happened on that golf course? Pete
would always bring people to play with, and he would always find a way to to get them, to a point where they were a little bit uncomfortable or something. He would just, he would find a way. But like I told you about this guy, this Drew Montague, I remember playing with him, and they had this battle all the time, and I was always in the middle, and they battle each other. If they lost, they were upset and everything. And so one day Pete just gets it up and down on 17, and he ends up winning one up. And I'll never forget, Drew gets on his little moped he had at the time, and he yells back and he says, "We were supposed to have dinner tonight, but I'll never have dinner with you again, you son of a bitch." He was so mad. He was so mad about this. And they literally didn't talk for a couple days. I mean, they literally didn't talk for a couple days. They were so mad at each other. And the other thing, when I played with Pete, Pete and I would play with other people, and people would say, "Do you guys gamble?" I said, "Yeah, we play for $50,000 Nassau." And they would look at me and they go, "Come on, you're lying." I said, "I'm not lying. It's the truth. I swear to God, that's what we play for." "Well, how the heck do you do that?" I said, "Well, we never pay." We've never paid. I said, "What's the problem?" He owes me 150,000, and then we never pay. So, well, why say we're playing for $1? Pete never paid anyway. That was yeah. We play with this guy, with Herb Kohler, and I don't want to keep going on with, you give me so much time, but we're playing with Herb Kohler, and me and one of our member, Milt Peterson, was a beautiful, great man, developer, just the greatest guy. And so I'm playing, the two of us are playing against Pete and Herb, and we are getting destroyed, right? I mean, we're getting beat like drums. So I get to number 18, and I take the scorecard, and Herb Kohler used to sit there, man, and keep track of everything, like
oh,
every
right,
score.
okay. Meticulous.
So we get to number 9. I take the card and I steal the card, and we're up there and we're waiting, and Pete's on all four. They're looking under the card to look for the card, and Pete yells at me, "Do you have the card?" I said, No, I don't have the card. So finally, there are another couple minutes. Finally, I said, I got it. So he gets up there and he says, "Do you realize there's not a man in the state of Wisconsin that would ever touch that card?" I said, "Well, Pete, I don't live in Wisconsin. I don't work for her." I got the card. And he beat us for, I don't know, about $50 or something. And I want to tell you something. Herb Kohler would sit there and would wait for that money. He didn't care if it was 50 cents or it was $50. He wanted that money. So he sat at the club, and it took me a long time. And, Herb is gone now, but he loved my wife a lot more than he loved me, but he invited us to the Ryder Cup, the last one they had, and he called my wife and he says, "Oh, Marilee, I would like you to come to the, you can stay with us." And, blah, blah. She goes, "What about Jill?" She goes, "Well, if you want to bring that little son of a bitch, you can bring him." So anyway, so that's, a few stories and things like that. So, it's got a lot of good, funny story that hopefully I can still remember. There a lot of time I come home, my wife asks me, "Who'd you play golf with today?" I go, "Shoot, I can't remember who I played with."
Yeah, but there's something different about, like, how easy is it to remember a story when you've had a couple of beers and you're sitting around a table with a bunch of boys than whenever you arrive home and your wife asks you.
Yeah, exactly. Somehow you want to make sure you're telling the right, sometimes she'll say, "Well, what did you talk about?" Gee, I don't know. I don't know what we talked about. He got a new club and he likes it. I don't know.
Yeah, he's crashing his 3-wood.
Yeah, exactly. He got a new driver and he loves it. What else? Is his wife okay? Well, I don't know. And then didn't talk about his wife.
Jill, thank you very much. It was a lot of fun, a lot of interesting stories, a lot of amazing insight into one of the great architects and golf courses of all time. So it's very special that you've managed to spend so much time with and around Pete Dye and at Pete Dye's favorite spot. So thank you very much for sharing those insights.
Really appreciate you having me on your show. And I hope one of these days you'll come to Casa de Campo and take that vest off. You're not going to need it, I promise you.
I'm not going to lie to you. It's boiling right now, but in Scotland, it's at least 15 degrees, whatever that is.
It's boiling. It's 15 degrees.
Absolutely boiling. I'm sweating in this thing.
Oh God! Good luck with that. Well, it's a beautiful country you have there, and my wife and I have enjoyed it many times, and it's very special place for sure. And but hope we can exchange, and really would love to have you at Casa de Campo.
Oh, I love that. Thanks very much, Joel. And if you're ever in Scotland, please make sure you reach me.
I sure will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Top100golfcourses.com has set the standard for golfers worldwide, and now you can wear that standard proudly. Premium apparel and exclusive gear for those who truly know the game. Shop now at top100golfcourses.com.